Midway USA brand product designers have one straightforward goal: develop high-quality, technically sound products and deliver them to customers at reasonable prices. If you are immersed in the shooting sports industry and pay close attention to every single detail, you know our products are built right and stand up to everyday use. Who has shooting mats and range bag systems to hunting clothing and just about everything for the outdoors? Log on and shop 24/7 with super fast shipping. MidwayUSA.com. The 1911 is one of the most iconic firearms in history. Designed by John Browning, the 1911 was the standard issue sidearm of the U.S. military from 1911 to 1985. While Colt produced the original, almost every major firearm company has produced its own version. It's wildly revered for its reliability, crisp trigger, and is still a favorite for all types of shooters. Whether you're looking to buy or build a 1911 and just about everything for guns, log on to MidwayUSA.com.
Welcome to the Casting Across Fly Fishing Podcast. I'm Matthew of castingacross.com, where I explore the quarry and culture in fly fishing. Today's topic is a great one, no matter if you are decades and decades into your fly fishing adventure or you're just getting started. But before I get to that, I have to mention something. Last week's audio quality was abysmal. It was terrible. However, it was one of, if not the, best listened to episodes of the Casting Across Fly Fishing Podcast in the years that I've been doing this. But I'm not going to continue to record on purpose with poor audio quality just because a lot of people listened to last week's episode. So I appreciate everyone who listened, and I apologize for the bad audio quality. I think things are straightened out, at least for this week. But on with the show. So this week, like I said, this is for anybody, whether you've just started fly fishing or you've been doing it for decades. And I would also say this is for anybody who ties flies, whether they haven't started yet or they've been doing it for a long time. And here's the reason why. If you haven't gotten started, you need this information. Well, you don't need the information from me, but you need this kind of information. And if you've been fly tying for a long time, unless you are actively involved in instruction, you might have forgotten what it's like to be a beginner. And so this could be helpful information for you, especially as we're getting into the winter months. This is being recorded in the middle of December. And it's also being recorded before holiday time, which is a great time to get somebody something that they might need to begin tying flies or take their fly tying to the next level. And so I've recorded a couple of podcasts on things that I wish I knew before I started tying flies. But this is going to go even further back, and what I would basically call how to start tying flies. What are some of the very first things that you should do, or some of the very first things that you should set people on a path to do if they're going to tie flies? First and foremost, why tie flies? You can go to a fly shop and buy beautiful, well-tied, fish-catching flies for between $1.50 and, I mean, to be honest with you, if you're fishing for muskie, $25 a fly. But more often than not, we're talking about $2 to $4 for a fly. Well, for the reason, first and foremost, is it's fun. If anyone says it's economical to tie flies, they're dead wrong. With the exception of a few patterns, like egg patterns and woolly worms and things like that. You can certainly do well financially by tying those flies as opposed to buying them. But the financial benefits are not the first and foremost reason why you tie flies. You tie flies because it is one more way to be intricately involved in something that you really enjoy. Now, some people don't like tying flies, and I'll have to say that there's nothing wrong with that. There's been times in my life where I've said, I don't feel like getting everything out. I don't feel like learning how to perform this technique I either don't know or don't know well. And honestly, I would just rather head to the fly shop and spend $20 and get what I need to go out for, these couple of trips for this season. There's nothing wrong with it. There's no expectation that tying flies is what you need to get to the next level, or that you are not a legitimate fly fisher if you don't tie flies. So let's get that out of the way first and foremost. But if you do want to try, I think it is a virtuous and good and fun thing. And it takes you down a neat little rabbit hole that allows you to see kind of the inner workings of what you're doing and why you're doing it. So that's I would say the very first thing is understand what you're getting into. it is probably a break-even prospect because of all the stuff you're going to buy, all the time you're going to uh, uh, allot to it, where you're not going to save money because you think, oh my goodness, $250 a fly. Some parts of the country, $350 a fly for a little tiny dry fly or a little nymph. It's going to be so much cheaper to tie these things. Well, again, like I said, that might be the case for some patterns, but there's always one more thing to buy. There's always one more thing to purchase, and every new pattern probably needs a new component that's not going to necessarily be the cheapest thing in the world, especially when you get into big, fancy feathers and capes and things like that. So that's the first thing is understand that this is going to take money, but secondly, understand that this is going to take time and patience. There are some people that are naturally gifted, whether it be because they have fine motor skills that are just really, really good, or because they're very artistic, or because they're have a really good attention to detail. All of those reasons are going to give somebody a leg up when it comes to tying flies, but that doesn't mean they're not going to have to take time to hone their craft and do better. So that is why my encouragement is to take a multi-tiered approach to starting tying flies. And here's what I mean by that. There's three primary methods that you will learn, that you will use to learn as you tie flies. And I think every one of them is necessary and every one of them is important. And they're this. And going from most accessible to least accessible, right? Most accessible is YouTube. YouTube is a great teaching tool when it comes to tying flies. There are some channels that are better than others. I would have to say that Tightline Productions with Tim Flagler and Trout and Feather with Tim Camisa, who I'll mention later at the end of the podcast, are two of my favorite. Now, there's other ones that are phenomenal, and there's ones that have a little bit more production value, some that are very low production value, but they're still very good. And so I would just say browse around, find what you like, but pay attention to the ones that don't just show you how to do it, but explain what's happening. And I'll get to why this is the limiting factor in YouTube here in a second. So that's the first one. The second one is books. Get a good fly tying book. Now, this will do a couple things for you. A YouTube video will show you how the process happens. But what I have found with a few exceptions is that the articulation of some of the techniques and some of what you look for in the materials is not as high caliber on YouTube videos as it is in books that publishers have gone through and said, this isn't clear, let's make this clear. This isn't sufficient, let's flesh it out. You're focusing on the wrong thing, let's just make it nice, concise, pithy, and tight. So that is one of the benefits of a book. Secondly, whereas a YouTube video might show a process, well, it will show a process from start to finish, books and the photography included in good fly tying books are going to show those intermediary steps, how you're holding something, whether it be the tool or whether it be the material, and it's going to lay that out in stark contrast. Again, are there bad fly tying books? Of course there are, but most of them, by the big fly fishing publishers, the big outdoor publishers, are high quality, and they're going to show you things that are integral for you to focus on, whereas you might be kind of overwhelmed by or just taken by the big picture that you see in a video. So videos are great, and stopping a video and pausing a video to see what's exactly going on works, but it's also helpful to have that fly tying book that shows you those integral steps in order, and that's what a good fly tying book does. And I've got some recommendations, actually one good recommendation at the end of this podcast. But I have, in case you don't know, if you go to the website castingacross.com, there's a fly tying books section, or within the fly fishing books, and there's dozens and dozens of books, and there's a handful of good fly tying books that are on there. So the first step I would say is watch videos on YouTube. Say, is this something I'm interested in? Secondly, get a book, and you're in for $15 at this point, not a big deal. And then I would say the very next thing, whether you are just starting or you've kind of been messing around a little bit, but I would actually say this is good if you've never even touched a vise and a bobbin before, is to get hands-on instruction. Now, this might be something that you get for free with your local Trout Unlimited chapter, or some sort of event that happens at a fly shop or something like that in your town, or it might be a paid event. at a fly shop or at something like the fly fishing show, where there are going to be evenings or Saturday mornings or classes that are slated for beginners, people who have never done this before. I know that most of the Orvis stores were doing this before COVID. I think they're probably back to doing it now. And that's a great one because, I mean, everything's right there. It's very standardized. And, assuming the instructor is good, it's an excellent way to not just be exposed to what tying flies entails, but you also get to go hands-on with someone. So as good as watching a video is, as good as seeing a still image is, the best thing is being in person with somebody, watching them do it, and then having you do it in front of them and them showing you, yeah, I understand that it looks like what you're doing is right, but it's actually very, very wrong, and let me help you fix it. That is invaluable. The same thing is true, of course, with like something like fly casting, where you can get the benefits from watching the video. You can look at a book. You can go flail around on your own, but having somebody go hands on with you is the best way to learn. So how to get started in fly tying? The very first thing is understand what you're getting yourself into. Understand that this is not going to save you a bunch of money, and you're not going to crank out box after box after box of flies within your first few weeks of picking up some hackle and some hackle pliers. Secondly, get the right resources, and I would say take that 3-tiered approach: YouTube, and then a book, and then go take a class. So those are the first two things. Well, as of the time of this recording, we are 10 days away from Christmas. But whether you are getting your last minute shopping in or you are in the middle of January staring in the mirror, wondering where the holidays went, it is not too late to think about hygiene. And you can actually do something very, very good for yourself and those who exist in close proximity with you by going to manscaped.com and using the code CASTING, CASTING, for free shipping and 20% off. Today's product that I want to highlight is something that it shouldn't be embarrassing. Everyone grows hair, and sometimes that hair migrates from the top of our head to other places. And for some reason, it might be those nooks and crannies, it likes to settle in and amongst the ear and nose region. Now, in some cultures, this might be a sign of intelligence or age or something like that. But in most of Western civilization, I don't think that's the case. And there's something that you can do about that. You could wax, but I wouldn't suggest it. You can take tweezers to it, but that just sounds painful and no fun, and you wouldn't want to get caught doing that by somebody else. But what you can do, and what I say you should do, I mean, once you get to be 50, 40, goodness, 35, I've seen some people, right? Get the Weed Whacker from Manscaped, the Weed Whacker. It is a $40 nose hair trimmer, ear hair trimmer, and it is revolutionary. That's the way to describe it. And I mean, I don't know many other nose and ear hair trimmers, but so I'll take their word for it. It's revolutionary in that you're not going to get anything snagged. I can't imagine a worse situation than having something snagged in your nose hair. It's not going to snag because it's running at 9,000 RPMs. And there is a battery that is not going to go dead on you. It's a powerful 600 lithium ion battery. It's waterproof, so you can have all sorts of fun with it in that way. And it is going to keep you looking good and clean. You have a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you go out and people don't say, "Wow, you have really clean, shiny ears," and you say, "This is what I was expecting," is people to compliment me, you could send it back. But I think that you'll be happy with it either way. So my suggestion to you, again, is go to manscaped.com, use the code CASTING, CASTING, check out the Weed Whacker, the electric nose and ear hair trimmer. So that's manscaped.com, use the code CASTING, CASTING, to get free shipping and 20% off your whole order. Okay. Third thing for how to get started in fly tying, you've got understanding what you're getting into. Secondly, you're going to go get the instruction and the information that you need. Thirdly, tie the right patterns. One of the most frustrating things for me when I started fly tying the first time, and when I started fly tying the second time, was that I went out and I got the fly tying kit. It was probably from like the Sports Authority or Dick's Sporting Goods or something like that. And it was a relatively inexpensive, like $35 or $45 kit. And it came with everything you needed to get started. And I'm not downplaying the value of these kits. I think they're a great way for people to get exposed to it. The tools aren't going to be the kind of precision and the kind of construction that you really want if you get into it. And the vise isn't going to provide the kind of stability that you need if you're going to be tying flies for, a long time. But they'll work. But my biggest gripe with them is the patterns that often get included. And it isn't necessarily the patterns themselves, it's the sizes of the patterns that you're getting. They're almost like exaggerated examples of patterns. So we're talking like tying a hare's ear nymph. Great, awesome. It's an excellent pattern to learn how to tie. Some of the techniques that you will learn when you are tying a hare's ear nymph are super important. And doing it on like a size 8 nymph, though, it's not going to be a fly you're going to turn around and say, man, I'm going to go use this and be excited about using this on my local trout stream. Could you catch a fish on a poorly tied size 8 hare's ear nymph? Absolutely. But we're not going out and buying those things. So try to find something that you're going to use. So there are a couple of options here. The easiest one, bar none, easiest one is to go into a fly shop and say, hey, I want to learn how to tie a woolly bugger. And I've taken a class and I've done it a few times and I know I'm going to fish woolly buggers. And I understand I'm going to waste some materials and tie some bad flies. So can you help me get what I need? And so the person at that fly shop will go and help you find some economical hooks. Now it's going to be 25 hooks, and that's going to be your most expensive, part of this equation. But again, it's not going to be a ton of money, between $5 and $10. And then you're going to buy your thread, your chenille, your marabou, and some saddle hackle. And so you might be in at, $25 to $30, but it's going to tie way more than 25 flies. So your hooks are going to be the first thing that get exhausted. And of course, the hooks are going to cost the most amount of money. But now you're going to have exactly what you need to tie the fly that you know you want to tie and the fly that you know that you want to fish. And the great thing about a pattern like, again, say like a woolly bugger, is that it does utilize some essential skills. And I'm not talking about palmering, hackle and making that look perfectly and having the shiny side face forward or backwards or anything like that. I'm talking about having nice, consistent wraps with chenille. I'm talking about building a good head on the front of the fly and whip finishing it or tying it off with your thread choice. I'm talking about measuring tail lengths and tying it in so that it does stick directly out and not cocked up or down or sideways or be too long or be too short. And all of those things you will get. So are you going to have a dozen different patterns? No, but you're going to have one pattern that you're able to practice on and see how this version of the fly looks good and this version of the fly looks bad. Why is that? My thread tension was a little bit off. I tried to pack too much chenille on there. I used way too big of a hackle when I was making the body of this fly. All of those things you're going to be able to see if you focus on one pattern. That might not be super glamorous, but I think that's a great way to make sure that you're tying something that you'll be able to use, but also you'll be able to assess your progress and maybe where you have some shortcomings. So you're able to go to a fly shop and do that. But there are also different websites, different fly shops. I've seen a few just in Christmas time advertisements that come from some of the fly shops that send me junk emails they create these little packages of fly tying supplies. And so there you're not even in for $30 or 35 or $40 because you have to buy a full package of every component, but they actually split stuff up and they will make it so that you can tie a dozen flies. So it might be $20, but you're only in for, again, $20, and you have maybe the cut portions, so you're not having to guesstimate how much of a piece of chenille you need or something like that. But they have cut pieces of things out, and all you gotta do is put them on the hook. So those are nice because they are probably a little bit less expensive. You're not going to have as much extra material when you're left over that you can then use for other flies or use for your second batch after you used up all your hooks, but you're going to have a taste at one of those flies are. And never feel like a simple fly is not worth your time because there are the wrong way to tie a foam beetle. You can tie a foam beetle that floats upside down. and it's stupid and you don't want that. And so don't think that it's beneath you to really try to tie a foam beetle well. Don't think that something like a Clouser minnow is simple to tie. Is it relatively simple? Yes. But again, you can have Clouser minnows that don't swim right, that keel to the right or the left because you didn't put the materials on there the right way, that have the wrong proportions of the top color of bucktail or of synthetic versus the bottom color of bucktail or synthetic. You can have a head that just looks ugly. That again, the fish don't care about it that much, but again, you're going for precision and you're going for tying things the right way. So never think that something like a woolly bugger or a foam beetle or a Clouser minnow or even simpler patterns, a green weenie or an egg fly is beneath you. Until you get those techniques down pat, never stop honing your skills on those most simple patterns. So that's my third piece of advice. And again, there's a lot more, but this is how I would say to start fly tying. To know what you're getting into, talk to somebody about it, talk to people that have tried it and stuck with it, try to talk to people that have tried it and have given up on it, and try to make sure that you know what you're getting into. Secondly, get the right resources. Start with YouTube, then go to a book, then go take a class, and don't feel like you shouldn't be spending money on this. I think it's definitely worth a little bit of an investment. And then thirdly, buy the materials you need. Don't buy random materials. Don't buy, don't start trying to tie a deer hair bass bug. Start tying simple materials and get exactly what you need and talk to somebody who knows what they're doing or buy something that's been specifically curated so that you can tie that fly. That is the best way, in my humble opinion, to start off. That gives you what you need. You're not adding a lot of pieces on the exterior. You're only doing the bare essentials. So if you are thinking about tying flies, hopefully this has been helpful. If you are someone who is an advanced fly tyer and you have your son, your grandson, your neighbor, somebody in your Tried and Limited chapter that wants to learn how to tie flies, remember these things. Don't say, okay, well, hey, I'm going to tie up a full dress salmon fly, so just sit down and do what I do. I'm not saying that people do that, but I've seen people do that. So remember what it was like to be a beginner. Remember that not everyone is going to have the same abilities and the same artistic and motor skills, and just kind of go back to that most basic level, that common denominator of getting people in front of what they need to be able to be successful and enjoy fly tying. Because if you can tie flies, but you don't enjoy it, then don't do it. Go do something else. Do watercolors of sunsets and trout. That's probably more soothing and calming and probably cheaper in the long run. This week on castingacross.com. Great week on the website. The first article that came out was called Cold Weather Fishing Comfort Beyond Layering. So it's very easy to layer. If you're cold, add another layer. If you're still cold, add one more layer. If those layers don't work, buy new layers, layer up, right? But that doesn't work on your feet because at some point, all that layering is going to make fitting your foot in your wader impossible, right? That's not going to work on your hands because at some point, you're not going to be able to tie a fly or even hold a fly rod well. So there's some parts of our body, our extremities, that require better gear. Not more gear, but better gear. And so that's our feet, our hands, our head, and our face. So in this article, I talk about how to think about that. First and foremost, that's the most important thing. And then I give 4 examples of gear that I use that I have found to work very well. Is it perfect? No, you're still going to get cold if it's really cold or really wet or something like that. But these are 4 things that I have found is just a better way to keep your extremities warm. So that is on castingacross.com. The second article that came out this week was called Scents of Water. Scents of Water. And this is a retooled version of an old article I wrote called The Scent of a River. And I do this from time to time where I go back to an article and I kind of just look at it with fresh eyes and I do some editing and I'm generally speaking tightening it up and making it a quicker read. Not because long form is bad, but that's kind of how I'm writing these days when it comes to casting across. So this got a really good reception, probably the best reception of any article that I've retooled to this point. So check that out, Scents of Water, and how you can be surprised with how you experience your time on a river. This week's recommendation on the podcast is a book I've recommended before, a book I've reviewed before, but in light of the episode's purpose, I want to recommend Fly Tying for Everyone by Tim Cammisa. Fly Tying for Everyone by Tim. This is a book that is not only practical, but it is pretty. It is a book that you will be able to utilize if you have not started fly tying and you want an introductory book. And it's a book that you'll be able to use if you are an intermediate fly tyer. And it's a great gift if you are an advanced flyer tyer for somebody who is just getting into it. But this is a book that, like I said, it gives you that quick, pithy explanations of what you're doing and the right photographs for how you should be tying. And then it gives, of course, good recipe lists for the flies that you'll be tying in the book. Tim is an excellent communicator. I think every one of the flies in the book, he has a video corresponding to it, if not most of them. And so you're able to get it from two different angles. And here's the awesome thing, is that you really could get the total package. You could watch him on Trout and Feather on YouTube or his website. You could read the book and have it in front of you. And then you can go to one of his many stops on the fly fishing show or his own personal visits to fly shops and Trout Unlimited chapters across the Mid-Atlantic and up into New England, and really across the country, and you can have him teach you his fly tying himself. So that's a great way to kind of have some continuity as you are learning in the different ways that I encourage you to learn before. But I will put a link to Fly Tying for Everyone on this podcast's show notes on castingacross.com. Thanks for listening to the Casting Across Fly Fishing Podcast. Please subscribe in your favorite podcast app and then rate the podcast in iTunes. Then head over to castingacross.com for 3 posts a week on the people, places, and things that go into the pursuit of fish.
A life that has the stories to back it. A life to be proud of. It's a Winchester life.
Yeah, baby. 6'8" Western. Oh, mule deer, baby, right there.
Tune in every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern on Waypoint TV.